What's up, founders? Nabs here. When starting a small business, one of the first stats you hear is probably going to be that 90% of startups fail, which if you think about it is a crazy number because the odds are stacked against every business before they even start. Funnily though, no one seems to worry about it that much. And in the mind of almost every founder, it's that they're going to be one of the chosen 10% that make it through. I was definitely one of those people. It's really funny to look back, but when I started my first business, Match Chat, the question of it succeeding or not never came up. And we also didn't really hear much about the businesses that weren't making it. And back then we only saw our peers who were just as new and excited as us, and then also all the hot news coming out of TechCrunch. I'm not sure if this is still a thing. I definitely don't read it now, but on there it was just new company, investment, success. So, failure didn't really ever seem like a possibility to us. But now, nearly 10 years later for me, because I've got a few failures behind me, I know that it is very real, and statistically, I'm probably going to fail a few more times through the course of my life. And I wanted to talk about that because I think it's a really, really interesting topic that so many people try and defy these odds. But it would be good if we're just honest about it and the pros and cons and understand why this phenomenon exists. First, I think at the core of every founder, there's some personality traits which are very common: focus, determination, optimism. I see these in a lot of friends as well as myself. And also, this confidence and pride to have big ideas and not be afraid to put them out there and shape the world. Apart from those though, I think it makes sense to look at two different types of founder because their motivations are going to be different. I'm going to use two versions of me, 10 years ago and today, as the examples. So first, back then, me, my first startup, I just remember how hungry I was to make stuff. Like from the first day I heard the idea from my co-founders, I was just making things. I made a web app, designed it, branded it, tweaked everything. It was so slick and shiny. I'm sure it convinced my co-founders to bring me on the team. And I kept all that attitude way through the business, like make stuff, what about this, what about this? Now the company failed, and the reason, it's a big one, is because I was building a solution before figuring out if it was a real problem for people. I've definitely done this one a lot. Engineers are the worst at this. Again, me. We're kind of cursed with this ability to make anything we want, and usually we also enjoy the process of creating those things. So we dive in way too early, have lots of fun tinkering and playing around and spending hours on all the fine tuning. But the only problem with this is that we haven't taken the time to zoom out and actually ask if other people are going to find this useful, and if we can sustainably provide it to them without running out of money. And I was getting this false value out of it from a business perspective anyway, because in the short term, I got some fulfillment, but eventually it turned out to be a non-starter. And by the time I was 2 years in, I had all my dreams crushed. And now this happens way more to early founders, and you could argue that it's not that big of a deal because it's a guaranteed way to get your first failure and, have your heart broken for the first time. So then next time you remember that lesson and you make something better, right? The other thing that allows you to do is just develop your skills a bit. So when when you're very motivated towards something, it's a great way to be fully engaged with what you're learning. So if you don't know what failure tastes like, you're not going to really be that worried about failing, right? But what about now? Because I'm still doing startups, and based on what I've told you about how horrible the failures are, and combined with that 90% failure rate, a smart person would just get out of the game, right? I'm sure they would, but here I am, I'm still doing it. And I think when you're an experienced founder, you have a lot of different motivations for continuing to try against all odds. So I'm going to tell you mine. First, after so many years just dedicated to this, honestly, I just want to come up with a successful business. It's mainly just to prove to myself that it is possible. And this can be dangerous, by the way. If it's the only thing that drives you, then you are kind of more at risk of the succeed at all costs mentality, which isn't very wholesome, and it can get you into trouble. But for me to give up without proving that to myself, I just wouldn't be able to live it down, really. I also feel that these days, the experience that I've gained from failures can help me get it right next time around. There's a very famous Thomas Edison quote, which I love. It's not about failing, but learning 10,000 ways how not to do something, and I really relate to that. Launching a business is like playing a video game over and over again, and each time you learn what you did wrong and you get further in the level next time around. And hopefully, if you learn fast enough and you get a bit lucky too, you won't have to wait too long to get your success. And then the other reason for me is that truly, just after all this time, I really just like making stuff and putting it in front of people. And that's the software I write, the businesses I found, and actually even making these videos. Success aside, I just like doing it and it makes me happy. So hopefully I can line this up with my other motivation and get everything I want one day. So there you go, a couple of points of view from different times in my life. At the end of the day, I think failure is inevitable and a very healthy thing. The whole point of trial and error is learning what doesn't work and just going again and again. Just make sure you don't make the same mistake twice. And the last thing I'd say is don't go the opposite way and become too sure that what you're doing is going to fail. Self-belief is the most important thing you can have. And remember those traits from before: confidence, optimism, pride. Make sure that what you're doing matters, and no matter how it goes, you will enjoy the journey a lot more. All right, good luck everybody, and I'll catch you next time. Bye.